Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Using YNAB for Small Business workshop. My name is Jim. I want to thank you for joining me today. Before we get started, though, I like to be sure that everyone can hear me okay. Make sure you found that chat window without a problem, the question and answer window. You'll see it there on your Zoom screen. Please type on over, if you would, where you're listening from. I'm joining you from the state of Idaho in the northwest part of the United States today. Appreciate you spending some time with me today. I always look forward to seeing where folks are checking in from, and this is a good way to make sure everything's working as it should. I do want to make sure you can hear me okay, but I appreciate you being here. There's lots of folks joining us even as I speak, so we'll give everyone a chance to get settled in. Thank you for being here. You know, these days there are so many opportunities for entrepreneurs, freelancers, small business owners, or maybe folks who just have a side hustle or two, right? Now, for your personal finances, you may already be enjoying the peace of mind that comes from having total control over your money using YNAB's 4 rules. Well, YNAB can give you that same control over your business dollars, providing clarity about business spending and eliminating a lot of the stress that can come from having a small business. A key to small business success really is controlling your cash flow. And YNAB's a perfect solution for contractors or consultants, freelancers, just side gigs, to name a few. Now, if you need to track inventory or receivables, or if you have to manage your payroll, you will likely want a more robust solution. But even then, you could still use YNAB to budget and manage your business cash flow. But before we get started, I'd love it if you would type on over and let me know what kind of a small business or side gig do you have going on. It's always fun to see what folks are involved with. I know I've had a lot of different things I've worked with over the years, and I find it really a challenge, but fun too. So I'd love to know what you're involved with as well. I see Dominique from New York there. You've got IT managed services. Well, great. Zan was mentioning a small not-for-profit coffee shop. Well, that's cool. I'm a coffee fan. I got to tell you, Pacific Northwest, you got to love your coffee. James makes pottery. One of our team members, Kelly's into pottery. She's one of our teachers as well. She's really very gifted. Some of the stuff she does just amazes me. I see Ariane's a self-employed transcriptionist. See, there's so many different things that you can be involved with. But, regardless of what kind of a small business you might be running, YNAB's 4 rules apply to your business too, helping you align your money to your priorities. But your business priorities are different from your personal priorities. You see, budgeting answers the questions. Can I afford this? How much can I pay myself? Do I have enough to cover taxes and advertising, maybe hiring extra help? Now, you've probably looked at some of the popular accounting software packages as you've searched for a tool to help you manage your business. Most of those have lots of features you don't really need. It adds complexity, but also a steep learning curve. Now, while accounting software will record what has happened, most don't help you budget effectively. So let's walk through how you can use YNAB for your small business. Okay, let's jump on over to YNAB, where I've created a new business budget here. Okay, let's imagine I'm a freelancer, and I recommend keeping your business budget separate from your personal budget, using your business checking account to fund your business budget. Though if your business is so small that you just use your personal account, maybe you're a crafter, sells a few scarves on Etsy, well, you could choose to just add a category group for your business expenses then in your personal budget. But you'll want to change the default categories like I did here, so they make more sense for your business. And if you're a freelancer, a consultant, maybe a life coach, this could be what your business budget might look like. It actually doesn't need to be complicated. Start with what you know you need for categories, okay? You can always adjust and add categories as needed. So I've gone ahead and set up a category group just for my monthly expenses, things I know I pay every month, but I've also set up my true expense group, which includes things like my quarterly taxes I want to make sure and set money aside for, my insurance, all those kinds of things. They don't happen every month, but I want to be ready for them when they do happen. And then once those categories are set up, you can add goals to help you plan for your business expenses. That's exactly what I've done. Like for my internet category, I've created a monthly funding goal. I know that bill is $50 every month, so this monthly funding goal will keep me on track to be sure to budget for that each month. Now, rule 2, embrace your true expenses will make sure you're ready for these non-monthly expenses, these true expenses, like insurance or quarterly tax payments. So I've set up a goal for my insurance, same thing, but this is a little different type of goal. A target category balance by date goal. I know I need to pay a $200 insurance bill in November, so this preps me and gives me exactly what I need to budget each month to be on track for that. So no more stress when those things come up. Okay, so you can create a whole template for your business budget by adding goals to all of your categories. And then you can easily plan ahead for the required income needed, and it simplifies budgeting when money does arrive. You'll see over here in the quick budget section this underfunded, which reflects the total amount of all those goals that still need dollars. So it gives me a good idea what I need in order to fund all those goals that I've created. But let's walk through what things might look like day to day, okay? Let's say I am a freelance writer. Okay, I'm going to set up my budget. Let's go to my budget here where it's the same basic budget, but I've added the numbers. I've added the money in my checking account. Okay, I've added goals to help me plan, but I've used rule 1 and given every dollar in my checking account a job. Now, these orange alerts that you still see here remind me of underfunded categories. Now, I'm going to add to these categories when more money arrives. Now, you can see I've started saving for my non-monthly expenses, things like my quarterly taxes. I mean, think about how great you're going to feel knowing you're ready for these things when they're due. But let's say I finished a project today for a client. I billed them today, but I'm actually not going to see that money for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to enter that invoice as a scheduled transaction. I'll go to my business checking. I'm going to add a transaction with a future date. Now, I don't expect that to be paid till probably the 6th of June. So I'm going to set it up for that future date. And we can say this came from a magazine that I've been working with, categorize it as an inflow to be budgeted. Now, I like to put the invoice number right in the memo field. I can search on that, and it's a great way to keep those separate. Now, I bill them $150. So that's going to be the amount I expect when they actually do pay me. Now, because that's happening in the future, it's grayed out. It hasn't actually happened yet. When that date arrives, I'll be able to approve the transaction if the money has arrived. Then the money will be available to budget. But it also will serve as a reminder to call them if they haven't paid me yet. Then instead of approving it, I can just go ahead and edit that date if I need to. You'll see there are other invoices that I'm waiting for here as well. I've got a couple different ones going on. Okay. Now, scheduled transactions also work great for upcoming bills too. They can be set to repeat, like my phone bill here for Verizon. I've got it set to repeat monthly. It too is going to happen in just a few days on the 29th. And I'll be prompted to go ahead and enter that when it does arrive. Now, if I have not budgeted for an upcoming bill, I will see an alert in my category reminding me that I have that upcoming transaction that I need to budget for to be ready. So lots of ways these scheduled transactions can help you stay on track. If you're a planner like me, you'll love this because then you know you're on track for these things. Well, let's say in today's mail, I actually received payment for an outstanding invoice. It wasn't due yet, but I could actually add that scheduled transaction early if I'd like. Enter it right now. So let's go ahead and find that invoice. It was from Jane Smith, okay, for $200. Now I can select that transaction, go to my edit menu, and just use this enter now to enter it right on the spot. Now those dollars are part of my budget. And I can budget this money. I now have $200 that needs a job. I'm going to ask myself, what do these dollars need to do before more money arrives? Well, I do want to set some of this money aside for taxes. So I'm going to budget 25% of this income to my quarterly taxes category. So let's take 50 of those dollars, just put it towards our quarterly taxes so we know we're on track with that. Okay, so that's good. Now I've got some dollars remaining and it looks like I've got a couple bills coming up very soon. My telephone, my internet bill, those are underfunded. I can actually use this quick budget tool to budget for those easily for these bills. I've got enough to do it, so let's make that happen. So now I'm ready for those bills when they come due. So great, I've given every dollar a job. But I've also got some personal bills to pay. So let's say it's time to pay myself something. Now, when I look at my salary owner's draw category, I've got $750 set aside so far. Now, it's still orange because, well, I haven't met my full goal target for the month, but I've got $750 available, so I'm going to go ahead and write myself a check for that $750. Let's go ahead and enter that check that we write to ourselves. We'll categorize it by the job it did, which is salary. And 750 is what we just wrote ourselves a check for. Now that accounts for the money leaving my business budget. Now I can enter that money as an inflow to my personal budget and give this money a job for my personal priorities. So I'm going to jump on over to my personal budget with my personal priorities. And let's go ahead and add that transaction as I deposited it into my checking account for my personal account. Inflows to be budgeted, and I've got $750. Now these dollars are ready to give jobs in my personal life. So each time income arrives, just budget those dollars and then check your budget as you track your spending. Now, you are going to find it makes things a lot easier if you establish a regular routine. Whether you update your budget daily or weekly, you're going to want good, up-to-date information in your budget, and that makes for better decisions and less stress as you're able to make spending decisions with confidence. Yeah, a few minutes each day can really make budgeting effortless. But what happens when things don't go as planned? Well, did that computer repair cost more than you'd budgeted? Maybe an unexpected promotional opportunity came up and you want to take advantage of it. Well, that's what Rule 3 is for. Roll with the punches. Move some money from another category if you need to. Your priorities can and probably will change, and it's okay to change your budget. But as you track your spending, YNAB is recording all of that data to help you manage your business and for tax time. Now, you can retrieve all that information using the reports section, where you've got income and expense reports available. You can also use the search function in the account registers. This is really powerful as well. If you wanted to search for specific invoices, you can actually type anything you want in the search field, and it'll find those for you as well. So that's a great way to find different things. You can even export your reports and your data to use as a spreadsheet like Excel or numbers. But lots of different ways of accessing this data as you're working through it. But you really do need a budget for your small business too. YNAB can give you the control you need to manage your cash, reduce your stress as you grow your business. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground in a very short time, but this is a great time to type on over any questions you may have about what we've talked about so far. Feel free to use that little Q&A window. I'd love to hear what questions I can help you with. We've got some time remaining, but I hope this is giving you some ideas of how you can use YNAB for your small business. I know it's something that's oftentimes those other off-the-shelf solutions have so much stuff going on, and you don't use most of it, and you don't need most of it. But budgeting is a powerful thing for your business as well. Dominique was wondering, how can I look a month ahead and project how much income I need? Dominique, this is what I use those goals for. Let's go ahead and move ahead to next month, okay? And if I select all my categories, I will see the total amount that's underfunded for the month right there. Okay, that gives me a good target to shoot for as far as what I need for income. Now, that's based on all these goals that I created. My phone bill, my monthly funding goals for those, maybe the balance of that taxes. So those orange alerts reflect categories that still need money, and the underfunded reflects the total of whatever I have selected. Well, maybe I want to just look and see what my monthly expenses need to be without my salary owner draw. As I select these things, I can see that underfunded change to reflect what my goals are. So those goals are powerful, not only in helping you budget faster, but they also help you project what you're going to need in the future. Now, for the current month, I can still use it. I might decide, well, what do I need yet this month in order to cover my underfunded goals? I can see clearly what I need because that's all these oranges that are still waiting for dollars. Maybe I'm going to pay myself last. I always encourage you to pay yourself first, but you can see whatever you need as far as planning ahead. Does that help? So use goals to plan ahead. So I hope that helps. All right, sounds like it does. Reese was wondering, you mentioned you just opened a business account this week, so you've got some expenses that have been paid out of your personal account. Is there a way to input those expenses through like an off-budget account, or do I have any other ideas how to record those within the business account? What I would probably do for something like that, Reese, is account for the money leaving your personal budget, of course, but think of them as a reimbursement. So in other words, you're going to have the money as left out of the one budget and then enter a transaction of the money virtually leaving from your business budget to cover those costs in your personal budget. Okay, and that way you'll be reflect those outflows. Okay, so in essence, we'd be entering a couple extra transactions to account for that. Now, I assume that some of what you're open for here is the fact that you want to have reports that reflect the total of your spending, right? I'm guessing that's usually what people want to have. Here's something I want you to consider. As much as it's nice to have all those things, you may find it easier to just go ahead and start from today and move forward. Now, here's a hypothetical. Let's say I've had a business since the first of the year. Running my business, I've been keeping track of it in my personal account. I've had categories for those things that I wrote checks for, or I've written them on a ledger sheet. It can be manual, doesn't really matter. Okay. But then I decide I want to go ahead and start using YNAB. Well, if I start from today, I will still have all the reporting from today forward that I can use. And then I'll just add those other numbers to that at the year end for my taxes. I find sometimes that's a little easier and cleaner than trying to like retroactively force the reports. I know folks often are tempted to want to enter all those historical data, and sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth. So I'd probably encourage you just make note of the expenses that you did out of your personal, and then add that to your year-end numbers that you have from YNAB for your taxes, because that's usually what you need those numbers for. Okay, so a couple ideas there that may work well for you. Okay, I hope that helps. All right. And lots of questions. Jeff was wondering, how do you enter expected future income? And will this reflected in the underfunded balance? Well, here's one of the key shifts in thinking, Jeff. We don't enter expected future income. We only enter income when it actually arrives. Okay, so what I've done here, the expected future income that I have going on are these outstanding invoices, and I've entered them with a future date. They're not part of my budget yet because they're future transactions that haven't actually happened. So I can see my expected income from those clients, but until that date arrives, until I actually receive the money, I will not have those dollars available to apply to my budget. You see, YNAB is an allocation system. Unlike a lot of the projective budgeting systems you may have used before, we're only going to work with what we have. This is powerful, though, in a couple different ways. One is that it helps us prioritize based on what's truly most important. You will budget differently. You will make different decisions when you're working with reality and the dollars you actually have. Okay, and that's the other thing that I love about it. It's telling you the truth about the money you have. When I take a look at my budget, because I've only budgeted the dollars I have, I know I have $250 available for supplies. It's in the bank. I can spend that and not have to worry about not having my tax money available. So it is a shift in thinking and a different way of thinking about budgeting for a lot of folks, especially in the business environment. But this is what's key to, I think, budgeting effectively for your small business as well as your personal life. So I hope that makes sense. But I've gone ahead and used these scheduled transactions as a way to go ahead and account for those things that are coming up that I haven't actually got the money for yet. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope that helps. Reese was wondering, is there a way to use off-budget accounts with the new YNAB? Of course. Yeah, we call them tracking accounts now, Reese. So if you add an account, you can go ahead and choose an account type called a tracking account, asset or liability. So there are some situations that could be helpful. And I know one of the alternative ways of handling your receivables would be to create a tracking account. We enter those receivables in that tracking account. And then when the money arrives, we transfer the money from our tracking account to our checking. Now, for a lot of folks, that could be helpful if you've got lots of invoices you're trying to track. For simple situations, I find this to be really workable. And the other thing that's helpful is I like the way the reports break down the income sources. Those income sources are itemized based on whatever my payee field is. If all my income's coming from just accounts receivable, I'll only have a single income source here. But the way YNAB's structured here is I can see the different sources of all my incomes because I've entered those as the payee names. So it's a couple different ways of approaching it, but you certainly can still use tracking accounts if you'd like. And I know Zan was wondering about batching input split categories when transitioning to YNAB. Well, we can certainly split our transactions amongst different categories. If you add a transaction in the category field, you can split that into multiple categories. Okay. So as far as importing transactions, any of that, when you import a transaction from the bank, if you've got direct import set up, you'll be able to split those transactions as well as you categorize and approve them. So you can definitely split those transactions amongst multiple categories. Good questions. I hope this has been helpful so far. I see we are out of time, though, so I do need to wrap things up. If you have other questions, remember you can always reach out for help. Just use this little question mark here at the lower right-hand corner of your budget. Our support specialist can help you with any specific questions you may have. But I appreciate you spending some time with me today. I hope it's been helpful. I want to encourage you to check out some of our other workshops. Our very next workshop is all about saving money on groceries. I know that's a category we all struggle with, I think, myself included. And if you'd like to see some ways you can use your budget to save some dollars on those groceries, this would be a great opportunity. We'll get started in just about 10 minutes. So I've sent you over the registration link. So I want to thank you so much for being here. Till next time, happy budgeting. And thank you, folks.